Okay. All right, well, I appreciate it being reported to me that my audio is now working because 9 times out of 10 it does. And of course, the one time I'm going to actually talk on stream, it wasn't working by default, but I can see that it's working now. Yeah. Yeah, so we don't really need to have this person like in the chat, so you can go ahead and mute them. But I am going to talk about. First, I need to, I guess, go over and re-explain what's going on here. And then we'll have a little fun discussion about what to do when a lunatic shows up in your comments section. So first of all, apologize for starting a little bit late. I usually stream from 4 to 5 p.m. local Arizona time. That's Mountain Standard Time, but Google messes up Mountain Standard Time, so I say Arizona time just in case. Started a little bit late today, and then my microphone was not working properly. So, as always, my name is Benjamin Moeller, and on Microstream, I'm showing you something going on underneath my microscope at home. Today I'm cleaning a fossil that comes from the Menefee Formation of the northwestern portion of New Mexico. And there's kind of 3 stages when it comes to researching fossils, kind of 3 major parts to paleontology. That's a massive oversimplification, but it is what it is. So, essentially, sorry, I got distracted by the comments again. So essentially, you've got the discovery portion where you're out in the field and you collect fossils. You've got the cleaning portion where you're doing what I'm doing right now and removing excess dirt. So in this case, this lightly colored sediment right there, this is the matrix. Matrix is the word we use to describe the sediment that is around the fossils that we're interested in. And then you get to the research stage. And to do the research stage, you have to really be able to see all of the finite, complex shapes and contours on the surface of bones in order to identify them or be able to say anything about their ecology, things like that. So you have to clean stuff really well in the lab, and while doing so, you'll uncover parts of the fossil you couldn't see before, and so your IDs will change, right? When we find something in the field, usually we'll say, I think this is X, and then sometimes you're right and sometimes you're not. Now this particular piece I've just been generically calling a dinosaur bone. It may be from a different reptile. It's just a portion, but part of what I'm doing right now is obviously cleaning it off so that I can make that distinction. And I bring up the field videos because I was just in the field about 2 months ago. So this fossil that I'm working on right now was in the ground in early October. And over the course of the Menefee expedition, it was collected, and now I'm cleaning it and restoring it. And when I'm in the field, I try to also document the discovery portion. You know, right now I'm showing you guys what it looks like to meticulously and slowly clean a fossil. But I also like to show what the discovery portion is like. So I shoot expedition videos. They go onto my Patreon first. That's how I, in part, afford to be able to actually do this work. And then after a couple of months, I'll put those videos for free on YouTube. So 2 months to the day, what I shot and edited and uploaded in October becomes publicly viewable in December. And there can be weird comments on those videos. It is what it is. And the policy, honestly, look, I've been on the internet for a very long time. Longer than I'd like to admit. I'm 25 years old. YouTube has been around since I was 6, right? So I know my way around the internet, and I know people are nasty and horrible on the internet. And while people fail at this spectacularly all the time, and I do it too, the only surefire way to actually deal with trolls is you don't feed them. That was the adage, don't feed the trolls. Everybody acknowledges that it's real, but it's not always right. Sometimes you just want to argue with people. So it's not exactly a 100% rule. We all make exceptions. And 90% of the time, if there's a rude or, otherwise bigoted comment left under a video, I just delete it. I do field work with a pretty diverse cast of people. And whether or not that person would care or be hurt by those types of comments, right? My friends have very thick skin and generally do not care about what random internet people think, but I still do not want to be hosting content that someone might run into that kind of stuff. Somebody else might be hurt by it, by seeing those types of comments to be allowed. So 99% of the time I delete, stuff that shows up that is rude or bigoted or whatever. I hit my exception today. And there are a few situations in which I feel taunting somebody who is trying to harass you is worth it. There are very few situations in which engaging with the person is in any way helpful or not harmful. There's a very specific circumstance in which it is, and to the delight of everybody that I've shown this to today, this exact type of person showed up. So if I might reveal something incredibly personal about myself, I'm a man. I'm a guy. I was assigned male at birth. I'm being facetious. It's not at all a secret. Like, I don't make any secret of that. It's nobody's business anyway, but whatever. And I happen to be a man who has long hair. A lot of men do, But there's a type of person, a type of transphobic person, somebody who is obsessed with reinforcing gender norms to a point of extreme self-detriment, right? As Nick pointed out, these are people who are living extremely sad lives, who have decided for whatever reason, like J.K. Rowling, that dedicating their time to harassing people with different gender experiences and gender identities than her, or these given people, is like worth their time and effort. And it's not. These people are extremely sad. But a lot of them are also deeply stupid. And that's what made this person delightful, because I'm a guy with long hair, and there is a particular type of transphobe who is so obsessed that they believe there is a global conspiracy to replace everybody in media, even lowly YouTube channels with less than 1,000 subscribers, replace anybody with a platform with trans people as a way to force normalization and make people, it's the conspiracy is that it's all about brainwashing to convince people that, dogs are cats and whatever. They always go off on weird tangents like that. And these people are always wrong. So first of all, this is extremely funny because I'm a man. I was assigned male at birth. There is nobody who would dispute that I'm a man. And yet this person is so confident in coming into my comment section and telling me and writing down what happened to this girl's voice, right? Let me get right up to the microphone. This is what my voice sounds like. I wouldn't even necessarily define it as a male voice or a female voice. It's my voice, right? This is what my voice sounds like. And this person was so convinced that I was assigned female at birth and is taking hormone therapy to lower my voice, and is arguing with me about something that I can disprove in 5 seconds. It would be to my detriment. I would get banned from YouTube immediately, but there is a very easy way to prove, right, what I'm trying to say. And it's just downright delightful that... I mean, this is how ridiculous everybody who goes on the internet and argues with strangers about their gender sounds like. This may be a really funny and ridiculous example, but every single person who does this, no matter who they're talking to, is equally ridiculous. Because you don't know me, you don't know those other people. And by the way, that sad individual who has spent their afternoon arguing with me over the internet, you know, I went onto their YouTube page because I was trying to figure out, I mean, that's just kind of a standard practice, right? If you're having someone who's harassing you, you go and check out what they've put out. Go and see what they've got going on. And so this is a person who filmed what they claim is a homeless person based out of Canada. I don't know if they're Canadian or if they were just visiting. And I don't know if the person they were filming was actually homeless or whether it was just someone standing out in the bushes, you know? How do you know? Are you 100% certain that person doesn't have a home? And if you are, what is wrong with you that you think filming them and putting it on YouTube, what, to laugh at? You think, like, that's the appropriate course of action? Like, that's just a sick and sad person. Also, they're Canadian, so L on that front as well. Possibly Canadian. Look, I'm giving more nuance to this person's national identity than this person gave to my gender identity, and my gender identity is not something that anybody argues with. I get mammed on the bus sometimes, and that's pretty much it, you know? Yeah, you guys are all hitting the exact stuff in the comments. Like, it's just, yeah, that behavior is sick. Whether you're trying to argue with someone with whom no one disputes is male about their gender identity, or if you're filming somebody. There's other videos on there that are focused on red heifers, and I'm only going to talk about this a little bit because I am not a scholar in either like biblical or the Torah or anything like this, so I'm not going to try to explain. I don't want to go out of my lane here and paint with a broad stroke here, but my familiarity with people who engage in the red heifer conspiracy are usually coming at it from a deeply anti-Semitic perspective. So this is a conspiracy, or this is a belief that in order for the second coming of Jesus Christ to occur, there needs to be construction of the third temple in the Holy Land. That can only happen with the sacrifice of a perfect red heifer. And there's been a lot of buzz about this lately because people who are extremely anti-Semitic are always on, you know, this is this type of person, you know? And so I haven't watched this person's video. I don't know whether they're coming at it from that angle. Obviously, this is something that is part of multiple religions, so I won't make assumptions, even though this person makes assumptions about me and about my anatomy and my identity. But, you know, I have a lot of experience, like I said, on the internet and in identifying bigots and identifying associations people have, and so that's just something else that I noted, right? This is somebody who harasses homeless people and also believes in something that, if actually occurred according to how it's relayed in most Christian sects, results in either the death or conversion of all Jews, right? So this is not someone that I'm going to accept any type of critique from because they are deeply bigoted in so many different ways. And like that comment section devolved pretty quickly into some racist commentary about Kamala Harris. So it's really not worth. Unfortunately, it never stays fun for long. This person is just going to be banned, right? Muted from a comment section. Not going to be able to leave comments anymore. It's okay. Like we can get rid of them after a while, but you know, if I can just waste somebody's time, somebody who is so sick and so determined to be hostile to strangers, if I can waste that person's time for an afternoon arguing with me about an extremely easy argue to win. Of course, I can't, like I said, I can't and won't do that. But people will really just come on the internet and argue about anything and harass anybody. So I wasted that person's afternoon so that they would leave somebody else alone who might actually be hurt by what was said. This white powdery substance is called dirt. So yeah, welcome everybody to the Microstream. This is what I do every Monday afternoon. It's usually not as exciting because fortunately most of the time there's not weird bigots trying to yell at me in the comment section. So there is a little bit, I'll answer next question, there is a little bit of color distortion on this, and I can show you, this is actually pretty close to the real color that I'm looking at right in front of me. I can make this any color that I want, in case you guys didn't know that. Like, I can just do it like this. It's a little harder for me to tell, but that was actually pretty close to the actual color. And yeah, you're right. You can waste somebody's time very easily, and that this person probably spent quite a bit of time trying to think up the most offensive thing to try to hit me with, like repeatedly calling me a fairy. Now, anybody who knows me, and that would include a number of people commenting right now, so they can verify this, I am not at all offended by being called a fairy. That is the weakest thing. That is the weakest thing you can call me. As a matter of fact, as a more or less unintentional, but in some ways very intentional, just daily, like, elf cosplayer, like, I just look like a Jacksonian Tolkien elf, and sometimes I lean into it, and sometimes I don't. But why would somebody who... why would that be offensive to me? Calling me a fairy? Like, I'm not Canadian, I'm not British. You can't hurt me. There's no word that you can call me that I and all of my closest friends don't call each other constantly. Like, that is just one of the funny things, is that they think they can win against us by, like, using terminology that we have completely detoothed and reclaimed. Like, that's how every community deals with it. Bigots really think that their words are far more powerful than they actually are. Calling me a fairy? Are you serious? I would call myself a fairy in my LinkedIn description. Like, I might have to put that in, because it's true. Like, it's just true. So everyone who's tuning in right now, what are you guys up to this afternoon? Nick is waiting to get dinner. Yeah, you're in a... What time is it for you? 2 hours? 3 hours? You're basically living on the other side of the planet, so... 6:40. Okay, yeah, so 2 hours off. And we got, I won't say his government name on stream, but another one of our friends working on a roguelike card game. Sorry, I'm sitting far enough away from the computer I have to squint at the comment. Working on a card game after months of not touching it. That's awesome. I remember hearing about that some time ago. I'd love to try it out. After you guys have had to put up with about a year of me showing you test demos of my game, which is being released on Steam, on Windows, on January 1st, 2025. A few weeks. You can download my game for free. It's called Shadowbox on Steam. In a few weeks. Go do it. So yeah, I'm kind of an idiot and I can't play card games, so I'm sure I would be the biggest failure of all time at yours, and I can't wait to try it out. I also got to give a shout out to my co-host and my roommate, who is currently at the dentist, who will eventually come back in through the door. And probably, well, I won't make any predictions, but we'll see what happens. I'm making carnitas tonight. I've got a pork shoulder roast in the slow cooker. And with it, I put some lemon and lime juice. I put salt and pepper, obviously, on the pork. Also, some oregano and a lot of cumin. And then I topped it with some chopped onions and some chopped up pickled jalapeno. We're going to be going away to Pennsylvania for 10 days here fairly soon. Our East Coast friend is coming west and we're going east at the same time, so we're going to miss him. Unfortunately, I've got to go to Pennsylvania in summer so that I can say hi to Nick and also actually look at the outcrops. Every time we talk about going over there, I'm like, I want to go under some bridges and collect some fossils. And I forget that it actually snows in places like Pennsylvania, so you can't exactly do that. Yeah, it's sad. But consider this, however. Consider this. If I can get over there at the right time of year, which is pretty doable, I can always take you with. If you would like to hang out under a bridge and split rocks with me, I'll make it worth the wait. There we go. I like doing this under the scope because you can actually see the little bits coming off. So satisfying. Yeah, and I also need to figure out if y'all's collection at the Peabody is a public collection and whether I can go in there and scan stuff. I'm pretty sure I can, but I always double check just in case. Because the collection on campus at Yale in New Haven, Connecticut is one of the best collections in the world. It's a historical collection when it comes to American paleontology. One of the two repositories for finds made during the famous Bone Wars, which is like the only part of paleontological history and development people know, which is okay. It's a really interesting and kind of bizarre and frustrating story. But there's a ton of really, not just scientifically significant, but historically significant stuff in that collection. And if I can get in there and scan stuff, that would be really, really awesome. If you are a murderer or serial killer somewhere out there in the world, I can be lured into basically any city if you tell me that you've got a public collection there and I can come in and scan stuff. Just a little pro tip. All right, good night, good night, Yick. Good night, Nick. Nicholas, who recorded some music for Shadowbox. What else can I talk about? When I'm done prepping this, I'm going to do some photography and then 3D scan it. So one of the ways that I'm trying to make the analysis portion of this work as accessible to my peers as possible, so we can kind of participate together and work on figuring out what the stuff we bring back is. I'm not just going to photograph and share photos, I'm also going to 3D scan the fossil. It just is really not the same if you're trying to identify something based off of a photo, whereas seeing the thing in 3 dimensions just makes it so much more obvious. And fortunately, I've got a lot of really talented people, including some really talented anatomists that work with me on the Menefee project. So I'm confident even if we come up with something that I'm not sure how to identify, we'll be able to fairly shortly. I guess, yeah, I kind of already gave the Shadowbox update, but technically I can release it right now. I've been approved to release it. I'm still going to give it a few weeks so that I can fit in a couple of quick tweaks here and there before it officially launches. And right now, we've only got support for Windows. That's what most people play PC games on. But the plan is, of course, to add support for Mac and Linux as well. We've got a Steam Deck, so we really want to get it on Linux so we can try it out on a Steam Deck. And yeah, it's just going to be a thing that I continue to work on for as long as I can. Part of my job is not just collecting fossils and looking at them, you know, in the lab and looking at stuff that other people have found and put into public repositories. Part of the job is also communicating what we find, right? There's this kind of class of scientists that people call science communicators. And I'm not honestly a big fan of that term. I think it's kind of diminutive and is used as a way to almost imply that research scientists and a lot of the people who do SciComm and get branded as SciCommers are themselves researchers, but their own contributions are sometimes really played down. It's almost like if you spend a lot of time interfacing with the public, that becomes how people define your job. And there are some people whose that's their entire job, and that's also great. But in my opinion, part of the job of being a scientist is figuring out how to bring your finds and the discoveries of the field to the public. It's a necessary part of getting our funding, right? It's a necessary part of reminding people the relevancy of the work that we do. And I don't think a lot of paleontologists spend enough time arguing for why paleontology is necessary and should get funding across the board. Unfortunately, this field can be very individualistic, and people argue too much about why what they do is the most important and aren't thinking about making sure that we're expanding the spotlight, not just taking up as much space under it as we can. Okay, that's a good tip on getting stuff working on Steam Deck. I will have the person working on this who knows how code works review that. Um, but yeah, besides, I'm almost certainly going to hit some optimization needs here and there for making the program run. So if you try it out and on January 1st it doesn't run great, just send me a message, go on the Steam forum, and write down kind of the performance you're having, what your system is, and I will do as much as I can to make the program as well optimized as I can on whatever platform and whatever PC you have. There is just the reality that there's only so well I can make things run, and that as a non-professional, I'm at a disadvantage when it comes to software engineering. But of course, anyone else who's interested in contributing expertise to that, I really appreciate it. But yeah, I think bringing stuff to the public is part of the job, and Shadowbox is something that if I had enough resources, could have started building about 10 years ago. It requires the ability to take photogrammetric scans, and it requires access to a video game engine. And both of those things 10 years ago were not very accessible, right? Can be very expensive on the scale of tens of thousands or something like that. But major institutions have been able to acquire that, and in fact have been acquiring the systems required to build what I've built, a virtual museum where photogrammetric models are used as in-game models. Like the ability to do that has been around for about 10 years. And many major institutions have had the ability to do it and have even had all the technology available, but just haven't. Whereas after thinking about something like this in the background for about 10 years or so, thankfully now the technology is accessible enough that someone like me who doesn't have tens of thousands of dollars to throw around on an experimental project was able to take 3D scans at the cost of a cell phone and $10 a month for the app. And I was able to learn a video game engine and build something in an engine for free, because thankfully there are companies out there. I don't need to give a shout out to Epic Games, right? But they made an incredible amount of money off of preteens buying skins on Fortnite. And they used that to build an incredible and accessible engine and then make it available for free to learn on, and easy to license. But in this case, because Shadowbox is an educational project, also is being released for free, right? There's no licensing necessary. There's no restrictions on that front. So there's a lot of technology that is basically useless that gets thrown in front of us all the time. I'm talking about AI here, but there are genuine great achievements being made and things that are going to make those of us who are interested in open access and making things free and making things accessible, that are going to make our lives easier and enable things that we never really thought was possible. I've been thinking about a virtual museum type thing, or at the very least running a Wikipedia-esque thing on the internet but focused on natural history and wildlife for a very long time. But I never thought that the virtual museum component would ever really work out. It didn't seem likely that the technology would catch up, that you would ever have a good enough model to be able to show. And certainly I never thought that I'd be able to figure out how to make a video game to the extent that I did. Of course, I've had a lot of help with the programming. I have options for changing it in the editor. And there are also obviously lots of direct, turning anti-aliasing down and stuff like that is what we've enabled. So for the beta testing version of this, what we're gonna do is kind of let people get under the hood and do as much optimization on their end as they feel comfortable with, and then report back and say, this is the settings that I'm using that I'm getting a good frame rate. and this is my hardware, and then kind of work backwards from there, not just to optimize, but then to figure out what the actual, you know, minimum hardware requirements are going to be. Because right now, like, I simply don't know what that is. This is another area where I'm just lucky to be in a time when those tools are accessible, because Steam is a free platform, not a free platform to list something on. You know, I spent $100 of my own money to get Shadowbox listed, so I put some money down for that. But I'm not going to have to spend an incredible amount of money hosting a server to distribute the software, and hosting a forum where people will be able to discuss the software and help me work on optimizing it. And I'm not going to have to pay a ton of money to like buy playtesters, because I'm just going to have people who are interested in this project work with me on optimizing it. So I'm lucky that you know, Steam Early Access is a tool that exists, even though it does produce and has produced a lot of silly nonsense. Yeah, I think we're talking about the same thing, but enabling as much as we can. Like, unless I'm misunderstanding this, there isn't an easy way in Unreal Engine. And someone, if you know that I'm wrong, please chime in and correct me. But it's not quite as easy as saying, like, the engine doesn't define like high quality, mid quality, low quality. When you're playing it, it has those quality settings for the editor, but I don't think it's quite that easy to add those options to the game menu. You have to be more specific in defining those on your own. So yeah, for now, what we're trying to do is just let people pick their options, like for anti-aliasing and other kinds of things, pick their own FOV. It occurs to me that the weird bigot may have gone back to that comment section and might just be spamming me in the comment section of that video. So when I'm done with this, let's see how long I've been going for. Yeah, I started a little late, so I'm going to go for a little bit longer than 5 p.m. But it's entirely possible that person is just going ape right now, and whatever. Actually, I think my internet might have gone out. Let's see. No, I think we're okay. Maybe. I think YouTube is having a hard time. Yeah, because my Chromecast just crashed. Big surprise. Yeah, message of the day is 99% of the time, don't let bigots use your platform. You can argue with them, but most of the time you shouldn't. But everyone's going to pick a particular situation in which you just gotta play with them because they're being so ridiculously stupid. And everybody gets to make that call. So if you're the kind of person out there who would ever consider harassing a stranger because you think you know their identity better than they do, get a life. Do something better with your time. You and everybody else you know will be dead one day. And I don't believe in judgment after death, but I do believe that your life is what you make of it. And if you choose to spend your time being hateful, you have wasted, you wasted your own life. That is as much of a punishment, I think, as anybody can get, is having spent their very limited time living on an incredibly unlikely situation, right? An entire planet that is habitable and full of life and beauty and diversity and complexity, and spending it being angry and insisting that everyone and everything falls into the categories that you understand, instead of allowing yourself to be surprised and allowing yourself to have curiosity, you know? I think one of the worst traits a human being can have is to be incurious, to not want to know why something isn't the way that you expected it, and not being open to the fact that you might have more to learn. That's just silly. Yeah, that's funny. It was at about 800, and I'm curious to see how much having a bunch of comments on a video changes the way the algorithm treats it. YouTube is weird in that it gives you a ton of information under the hood about who's watching your videos and the trends and where those clicks are coming from. So I'm curious to see what'll happen with that. Like, again, that's just one of the other perplexing aspects, is like, why would you argue with me if you, like, you're not hurting me, you're not gonna ruin my day, and all you're doing is giving me engagement. Like, thank you. I'm incentivized to mess with you. You know, and I'm incentivized to continue presenting in the way that I do if it's going to cause lunatics to behave that way, you know? Literally, what are you accomplishing? Yeah, well, this guy was a little bit too obsessed with the scientist in me, I think. And yeah, that's one of the biggest cell phones too, is that these people who are obsessed with people's gender and sexuality and spend all their time thinking about it and telling other people they're gross. No, I think you're the gross one, actually. I think you're way more obsessed about my identity than I am, you know? I don't wake up every day and I think I'm going to go boyishly put on my shirt, and I'm not going to go, have a man's breakfast, whatever. Hey, some people are like that, some guys are like that, and hey, that's okay too. I think there's a lot of valid ways to be a guy, obviously. But that's not what I do. Just sad obsession. And usually I just remove those comments, even if I know the people who they're being made of will not be offended by it, because I don't want other people to be exposed to it, and also because I don't necessarily want my comment section to be about people arguing with one another. You know, it does potentially help the algorithm boost a little bit, but predominantly, like, I don't want protracted, like, arguments and flame wars going on all the time. So yeah, 99% of the time, you just let it go. But this was just too funny. I guess some other updates I can give is that we are obviously planning another Menefee expedition trip next year. So there's one more, I think there's one more expedition video that premieres tomorrow. That'll be 7 a.m. my time. And then sometime after that will be a little trailer for Shadowbox when it releases on January 1st. Just a quick little trailer for the opening of the open beta. And then, yeah, next year there will be obviously plenty more things, and included in that will be Menefee expeditions. We just picked some days. We're going to go for about 2 weeks at the very least next May. So if you are subscribed to the Parent Teacher Guide to Paleontology, as an expedition volunteer, you'll get to see all the next year's expedition videos the day that I make them. So when I'm out in the field, I'm recording myself every hour or so. I'll do like 30 seconds of what I'm doing. And over the course of the day, you get 5 to 10 minutes of material, and I stitch it together and I put it online for people to enjoy. There are limitations to how many people you can take out in the field every year. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is what it is, right? And there are other barriers that prevent people from being able to go out every single year. And sometimes, some people, field work is just not feasible, And again, I wish that wasn't the way that it is. And I can do what I can to make that not be the case. But it is what it is. And I think that recording a little bit enables other people to kind of participate and see what's going on from my perspective. And while it is obviously an extra task on top of everything else I'm responsible for as a principal investigator on the project, I have to be keeping track of documentation and discoveries and looking out for my field crew to make sure everyone's doing okay and getting what they need. And so filming and editing and uploading every single day on top of that, I'm not just going to do at least 2 weeks out in the field. I'm also, that's me making 14 new expedition videos, So that's a lot of extra work. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Menefee Expedition 2025, and I'm looking forward to making all those new videos next year because people actually enjoy it. I think it's really cool that almost 1,000 people have watched a video that I shot a couple months ago. And if even 1 out of 1,000 people decide to sign up so that they get to see next year's updates as they happen, then that's obviously worth it for me. And that contribution goes to helping me pay for my gas, pay for tools, pay for my food. So everything helps. I really appreciate everyone who subscribes to enable that to happen. If you go in the description of all my expedition videos, you will see a list of people thanked. So if you're not able to donate, I completely 1,000,000% understand. Everyone obviously still gets to see it after 2 months, so you should say thanks to those people who do as well. And I guess I can talk a little bit because it's not necessarily obvious from the 3-hour trailer that I uploaded in September. So I unveiled Shadowbox publicly on September 13th. It was Friday the 13th, so I couldn't resist. That was the date that I picked going out about a year ago or so. That was kind of the end goal, to give myself until September to try to publicly unveil what I had been working on. And then we continued to make some really cool progress. Again, my roommate, co-host, currently at the dentist, has done an incredible job on an inspection system. So if you saw the multi-hour stream that I did back in September, there are even additional features that help you get even closer up to look at the fossils that I'm really excited about. It lets you see a ton more information about each individual fossil, and that helps me keep track of what's in my collection, right? Part of the drive and the reason why I've been wanting to do this for a long time is because I want to be keeping track and have a catalog of all of my stuff. And you can do that in with handwritten notes in a little binder. But this way, other people get to see what it is that I've collected. And a lot of what I am showing in Shadowbox is stuff that I have found throughout my life. I've been doing field work since 2007. I was an 8-year-old. And I have fossils that I've collected going all the way back then. And so it was a really cool experience over the course of doing this project to go into boxes that are still in my parents' house, and pulling out fossils that I remember discovering at age 10, at age 13, at age 19, and pulling them out and taking a scan, and then realizing that, like, other people, you know, when you discover a fossil, you're the first person to ever lay eyes on that bone, right? The only human being that's ever seen it. Every fossil is special in that way, in that if you're uncovering it fresh from the ground, you are the first person to see it, right? The first person to lay eyes on it. But I want more people than just me to be able to see this stuff, you know? Every fossil is part of building a bigger record. And I also think that a lot of people don't get to see what real fossils look like. That was another big motivation to creating this project. I don't think this is a secret, and I don't want to say it in a way that might come off as conspiratorial. But a lot of what you see in museums is not original fossil. Particularly if you're looking at a big mounted skeleton and you're not in one of those old legacy museums like the American Museum. I haven't been there, but I'm pretty sure the Peabody, the museum at Yale, might have some original mounted fossil as well, some original skeletons. But the majority of the time, because it's safer for the fossils themselves not to be on public display, not to be mounted and inside of a room at all, right? Most of the time, what you're seeing are actually replicas made from cast of the original fossil and then filled in for all the parts that we don't have. So people have an eye for fossils. It's easier for people to comprehend a skeleton when it's more complete, right? So people actually prefer seeing replicas. They just don't necessarily know that. So it's a bit of a challenge when working with, in shadow boxes, all original fossil is what's on display so far. I've been considering modeling some stuff either in Blender, but I'm miserable at it, so maybe not, or modeling stuff in clay if I want to create something that is replicated. And on one of the displays that will be part of the first full release of Shadowbox, I do use copies of a bone. It's a foot of a dinosaur that has some pieces missing, and so I've copied elements that are missing, and I make sure that those are a different color from the original bone, so you can tell pretty easily what's a copy and what isn't. But yeah, that's one of the things that I want to be doing is allowing people to get up close and look at a real bone in the way that I do all the time, but not everybody has the ability to do that, right? Just, again, part of the logistics of running a collection is that not everybody gets to go in and look at original fossil. And in a lot of museums, they will have at least one real fossil on display, but it's not always, you know, the whole exhibit. And a lot of the time, it may only be just a handful of pieces, particularly ones that are kept behind glass. And so in Shadowbox, nothing is behind glass. You can walk right up to it. You can jump on it. As someone who volunteered in a museum for a very long time, I know that one of the things people really want to do in museums is run and jump on stuff. There were people who have done it while I was volunteering. I would be lying if I didn't say that sometimes I wasn't tempted to do the same thing, so I get it. Everybody wants to do a little bit of parkour off of a dinosaur skeleton. But only in a virtual environment is it possible to do that without destroying the skeleton as well as, like, breaking your own bones. So while there isn't a ton of parkour, you know, per se in the beta version in the game as it is right now, like, I'm totally intending to let people just kind of run and jump on stuff if that's what you want to do. Because why not? Some people want to go slowly through museums and want to know everything about every individual little piece, and some people just want to run right through. Both are valid ways to experience a museum, so I'm making both of those things possible. Okay. Is anyone who's still with us here towards the end of the stream got any particular holiday or end of the year plans that I want to brag about? Anybody doing anything fun? Volunteering on Christmas Day. You are brave. You are brave. Christmas Day crowds, I'm sure, are, no matter what you're volunteering at, I'm sure are going to be pretty big. So good luck with that. I'm going back east to hang out with my partner's family starting on right around Christmas and then going through New Year's. Something my friends know is that New Year's is actually like one of my favorite holidays, because I like staying up until late at night and hanging out with my friends, and it's kind of cool to spend the end of one year together and ring in the next one all together. So it's a holiday that I enjoy, and I'll be spending it over there, which is cool. It'll be an earlier time zone. So this year, since I'm releasing Shadowbox on January 1st, and something I've learned is that on Steam you can't, like, you can set a release date and that is what shows up on your page, but you have to actually manually set like your game to upload. You can't automate that. So what's going to happen is that at 12 a.m. on the dot on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, I'm going to have to press the button to upload Shadowbox. So it'll be uploaded January 1st on Eastern Time. Even though I'm from Arizona, this one will be on Eastern Time. So this year, yeah, I'll be staying up late and then pressing a button, and then hopefully, if anybody's staying up that late to try out a free game, that's really awesome, and I hope that they enjoy it. But I will probably pass out shortly afterwards. Thank you. I hope you also have a great time. If I might ask, what are you going to be volunteering as or for? Giving some people Christmas dinner. That is amazing. I think few people can argue with the idea that feeding another person is one of the completely unambiguously good actions that you can take, right? You can get pedantic and say, oh, but what if the food's poisoned? Okay, well, that's obviously not feeding people, right? Unfortunately, some of us live in places where feeding the unhoused is illegal, and I think that is abhorrent. And so some people will say, well, it's illegal to feed homeless people. I don't care. I think it's always morally good to feed people, and good on you for doing so. There are a lot of people, I think, right now who feel like maybe the world is a little bit too unfair and that bad stuff is going on, and they want to know how to help, how to do anything that can materially help one another. And there's actually a million different ways to do something good. Everyone is excellent at doing at least something that is helpful and helps make the world better. So if you keep trying, you will find something. But if I might make a suggestion, yeah, on that point, an extremely valuable skill is just knowing how to cook for a large number of people and cook something that is like cheap and allergy safe. You know, making a big batch of vegan lentils or something is an incredible skill. I am not as good at making lentils as I want to be. The thing about dried legumes is that you gotta soak them longer than you think you do, and I always underestimate. But I'm getting better at it. Eventually, I will be very good at making legumes. Very good at making lentils. I'm okay at beans. I do okay at beans. I do it overnight, and sometimes it's still not soft enough. I don't get it. It's been better since I learned to soak overnight in a brine in salt. But back in the day, when I tried making like a chickpea falafel, that was crunchy.com. That was not. I did not do a good job. I'm lucky I didn't break any crowns while eating that. Probably will break a crown someday because I made myself eat crunchy falafel lentils or chickpeas. I don't think you're dumb if it works. I think I'm dumb because it doesn't work. I have boiled lentils literally all day and still had them come out crunchy. I'm not sure how. I put the lid on. I have a pressure cooker. I use that sometimes. That's pretty idiot proof. But sometimes I only want to make a cup of something, and my pressure cooker is like I could make a meal for 20 to 50 people in that thing, so I don't always feel like filling up that whole thing, cleaning the entire dish. Yeah, I don't know what it is, and it's dangerous to have me cooking all day because, as you know, um, my mortal sin in the kitchen is that I walk away all the time. I get distracted constantly. And so I try to get all my cooking done in a reasonable time frame so that I'm not trying to multitask. It's not like an attention deficit thing. It's that I'm always trying to multitask, and you can't really multitask while cooking, and that drives me crazy. I actually can't focus on cooking if I'm not at least listening to a podcast. Let's see. Is the lighting accurate? This is pretty close to the actual color of the object that I'm looking at right now. I was just pointing this out earlier that I can in fact distort it quite a bit if I want to. Check that out. Sometimes I do photography under this thing and I just put it to the most bizarre contrast that I can. Look at that. That's cool. Look at how the foil looks. Check that out. You can't tell me that's not awesome. But alas, it makes my job harder, so there we go. Yeah, timers are good, but here's the deal with timers. I absolutely have no patience for electronics trying to get my attention. There's something about it that makes me so deeply angry. And it's not a mystery. It comes down to being chronically tired in middle school, as many people are. I hit a period where I was having really bad insomnia and not really knowing how to get to sleep. So I was not sleeping often. You never get enough sleep when you're around that age because you have to go to school pretty early. And realistically, when you're in middle school, you should be sleeping 15 hours a day. but we can't do that. So I was tired, and every single morning I had this alarm clock that would go off. I still have it, but I never use the alarm on it. It's a beeper that increases in the number of beeps it does every iteration that you don't turn it off. So it starts with 1 beep, and then 2 beeps, 3 beeps, 4 beeps, and it will just continue until you stop. And something about being tortured for however many years, daunted and mocked by this little machine whose only job was to tell me that I wasn't allowed to continue resting, and would be increasingly annoying until I acknowledged what it wanted, which was to turn it off. I just can't stand it. I can't explain it. It makes me so angry. So yeah, an easy solution is just to set a timer. And what I do is I have my podcast going, and I'll set the timer on my microwave. Because if I set an alarm on my phone, the beeping sound will come in through my headphones, and I hate that. Whereas if I'm listening to something else and I quietly hear a beep, I can deal with that. See, this is the thing that people should be making fun of me for. Hello. I was going a little bit longer because my mic didn't work the first 20 minutes, so I had to redo everything. And the guy did show up, but Nick booted him per my instruction. Yeah.
I was going to say something like, hello, my biologically male boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Coming up to can I read the
Yeah.
comments?
Well, the ones that they left are gone now, probably. They might still be commenting on the video itself.
Message deleted by Nick.
Yeah.
You deleted message.
See, the problem is what started off as really funny transphobia, which is transphobia directed at somebody who is not trans, and you would have to be the most like conspiratorial minded, as this person was, to believe in their bones that I'm lying about being a man. But it stops being fun when you start getting like racist, and that's what he was doing. So I'm gonna have to cut that off. If you want to come into my comment section and make fun of white people, you can do that. I will let that stand. I might even join in. But none of that. If you come into my comment section and behave that way, I squash you like a bug. And when it comes to moderation like that, they'll always go, "Oh, you're so scared of me. Oh, did baby have to block me?" But here's the thing: you're the one complaining about getting blocked. Like, that's pathetic. You know, I saw you, I decided within 1 second that I never wanted to hear from you again, and I never think about you after that point. So you choosing to go and like complain about it and act like you've done something is just like continuously pathetic. So we can all wave goodbye. We've all had fun, but we're going to have to wave goodbye our transphobic, homophobic, anti-Semitic, racist friend from probably Canada, who was harassing homeless people. Sorry to say, but some people are simply too vile to lend our platforms to. And hey, everyone has their own choices, but that's where I cross the line. I don't like that type of person. I don't need you.
The video's almost out of KB. The comment engagement worked.
Okay. So it is now 5:30. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. There will be another Microstream from 4 to 5 p.m. Arizona time next Monday. And for at least one Monday after that, if not two, I'm going to be out of town, so there will be something pre-recorded instead. I'm hoping I get around to pre-recording 1 to 2 things to be prepared ahead of time. If it's not there, please be patient with me. I've had a busy year. You know, I made a video game. So just keep that in mind. That'll be here at the beginning of next year. So thanks for sticking around, even though my audio was not working for the first 20 minutes, and I will see you guys next week. All right, adios.